It's time to get outdoors and enjoy Arizona season. Camping, hiking, fishing, biking, whatever you might enjoy. And it's the perfect time of year to take your holiday visitors to see the magic of Arizona. Visit azstateparks.com/amazing and plan your next outdoor adventure. Arizona State Parks and Trails wants to remind you to respect the outdoors, keep your distance from wildlife, and pack up all trash that you pack in. Arizona State Parks and Trails.
You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers about hikers for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. You are listening to Jester Section Hiker, the premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers, and I'm your host, Julie Jester Gayhart, and welcome to the first of what I'm calling 3 John Muir Trail Logistics episodes, and this first one is going to be all about JMT Logistics, including the permit process, itineraries and maps, and bear canisters and resupply. And for those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I am out on the John Muir Trail with Mighty Blue and 2 girlfriends of mine. And our official start date of the trail was Wednesday, July the 28th. So by the time you hear this episode, hopefully we will have gotten to our first resupply point at Meadows and be on our way to Lake Virginia. And for those of you that are not as familiar with the John Muir Trail, I'm assuming that a lot of you are familiar with the JMT. It is 211 miles from Happy Isles in Yosemite National Park to Mount Whitney. If you start in Yosemite, you are actually hiking south to Mount Whitney, and this is the most popular route. Most people hike south to acclimate to higher elevations as you hike versus starting on Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in the lower 48 states, topping off at 14,505 feet. So it is not unusual for people to start at Mount Whitney, but the most popular way is going southbound from Happy Isles in Yosemite and then topping off at Mount Whitney. So I wanted to put a few episodes together, and it ended up being 3, this one being about JMT Logistics. The next episode is going to be my JMT backpacking gear list. And then the following episode after that, and probably the hardest episode for me to put together, is going to be all about John Muir Trail Resupply and the logistics that go along with that. So, like I said, as you are hearing this, we are out hiking on the John Muir Trail and hopefully having an awesome time. And as I move forward with this episode, again, this is going to be, I'm going to break it down in 3 different areas: the JMT permit process, itineraries, maps, and apps that you can use out on the John Muir Trail, and then going over bear canister and resupply. And just as a side note, there is all types of information out there on the John Muir Trail, and I'm just kind of going to be going over the process that I used in some of the websites and all the information that is out there. Again, this is just stuff that I have been using and have found very beneficial, so I thought I would put it out there for you guys. So welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining me again. And I will be right back, and we will start with the first of 3, which is going to be the permit process. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get to this JMT permit process. And just an FYI, our 4-person permit that we are hiking on right now out on the JMT, we started at Lyle Canyon and we are hiking southbound to Mount Whitney, and we'll be coming down Mount Whitney to the Whitney portal. So again, our permit is from Lyle Canyon and we are hiking southbound to Mount Whitney down to the Whitney portal. So just wanted to give you information on that. But what I'm going to go over next is if you are interested whatsoever in hiking the John Muir Trail and getting that hike on your or off of your bucket list, and you've been thinking about it for a long time, the process of all of this actually starts in January of the year you are going to be or wanting to be hiking the John Muir Trail. And the first website that I recommend that you go to is actually the National Park Service website. It's www.nps.gov, and you can go to a section called Yosemite Plan Your Visit. And the reason I recommend going here first is because it is 2 to 4 pages of vital information that you need and recommendations and frequently asked questions from and provided by the National Park Service. So I think before you go on any trip, because Yosemite National Park is part of the National Park Service, the best and most accurate information is going to come from the National Park Service website. And once you've investigated that and kind of try to figure out, okay, do I want to hike in June, July, August, September? Do I want to go northbound? Do I want to go southbound? What is going to be the best for me? And what hiking conditions do you want to hike in? And all that stuff that goes with getting a permit and hiking the John Muir Trail. Then you go to yosemite.org and you click on the JMT rolling lottery application. So the next website you go to is yosemite.org. And that is actually where the application process is housed for the JMT rolling lottery that starts in January of the year that you want to hike the John Muir Trail. And there is a lot of information that you actually need to have knowledge of before you fill out your JMT rolling lottery application. And there are 2 websites that I recommend going to immediately before you fill out your application. And that is bearfoottheory.com, BEARFOOT theory.com. Or another one that I found as valuable information is shedreamsofalpine.com, SHEDREAMS of alpine.com. Those 2 websites literally walk you through the entire process of filling out your permit, whether you want to go southbound or northbound. And a key point that both of these websites point out is they say to apply for a permit, you must know your desired start date, where you will camp the first night, and your exit location and date. So before you even start filling out that rolling lottery application, please go check out barefoottheory.com and shedreamsofalpine.com. These are just 2 websites that I have found that obtain a lot of information. And before you click that button for filling out your rolling lottery application permit, you also need to decide if you are going to hike Half Dome as part of your trip. So Half Dome needs a permit as well. And I know on your application, you can click a box if you want to obtain a permit or try to get a permit for Half Dome, which would be included in your overall permit. So let's go ahead and recap real quick before I move on. First and foremost, go to the National Park Service website, go to Yosemite, plan your visit, read all of those pages, the FAQs. The second website is the JMT lottery application site, which is yosemite.org. And then 2 websites that I recommend where these individuals have broken down Exactly what you need to do to fill out that application is barefoottheory.com, and then shedreamsofalpine.com. And then make sure that you decide if you want to hike Half Dome or not. There is a website once you're done with all of that and you don't end up getting your permit. I am not too familiar with this, but it is also housed on yosemite.org. It is called the Yosemite Full Trailhead Report, and you can find that on yosemite.org. And I think what happens there is you can see a daily report of entry trailheads, exit trailheads, and some things that are available. As people that have obtained permits, they had to cancel their permit for some reason. Because keep in mind, you're getting a permit in January for something that you're going to do typically June, July, August. So a lot can transpire between those dates. So keep all of that in mind. And I did want to read one thing that I found very vital from the She Dreams of Alpine website. She says that getting a Whitney Portal permit is arguably even more competitive than the Yosemite backpacking permit. Instead of dealing with the Whitney permit system, you can instead opt to start further south on the Cottonwood Lakes Trail or the Cottonwood Pass Trail. Both trails allow you to connect to the JMT and still hike its entire length. It's not a bad option or a backup option. If you need to start earlier in the season, say late June, then this might not be the best starting point options because you're likely to have to deal with more snow. So if you start north, which is Mount Whitney, you also have to look at those dates. Those are the higher elevations, and there could possibly be snow. And she also says another key thing to note here is that starting in Whitney Portal means that you'll have to adapt to altitude pretty quickly. You'll be at high elevations pretty quickly, and depending on how you adapt to altitude could be less fun to deal with. Many of your first few nights on the trail will be camped at 10,000 feet or more. It's not the worst thing ever, but you'll want to add some altitude adaptation days in prior to starting your trip. One last thing I wanted you guys to go check out. After you do all of your reading from the National Park Service, going over to Bearfoot Theory, and then going over to She Dreams of Alpine, and before going to your JMT lottery actual application process in January of the year that you want to hike, you can also check out Follow Bigfoot on YouTube. He has a video out there. It is very, very, very detailed. The actual title of the video is Everything You Need to Know About a JMT Permit, and I recommend watching that as well. So the only thing I'm going to say about obtaining a JMT permit is that you need to read, you need to investigate, you need to take notes, you need to absorb all the information, contact anybody you know that has hiked the JMT, talk to them about it, get as much information as possible, and then fill out your application. Again, most likely you're going to be filling that out in January of the year that you want to hike, that rolling application. There are other ways of doing this. I am not as familiar with those ways, but again, hopefully this permit process helps you out. If anything, gives you some websites you can go to, some people you can follow if you are interested in hiking the JMT in the future. All right, you guys, I will be back shortly, and we're going to go over JMT itineraries, maps, and apps that you can use on your phone, and I shall return. All right, you guys, I am back, and I am going to be going over some John Muir Trail itineraries, maps, and apps that I have found on the internet and have heard about for years and years, that I am currently out using on the John Muir Trail as you guys are listening to this. Just wanted to remind you guys real quick that you can go to today's show notes and find all of this information, all these websites. I've laid it all out for you. Very easy to find at hikingradionetwork.com. Just click on the Jester Section Hiker show and then click on today's episode, and you will find all of those links there. But let's get right to it on these itineraries, maps, and apps. And I will tell you, over the years, I have heard really, really, really good information about a gentleman that goes by, or he's known as Eric the Black. And you can find his information that I'm about to tell you about at blackwoodspress.com. Again, that is Eric the Black, and you can find all of his trail information at blackwoodspress.com. And I actually have the website pulled up here in front of me as I'm going over all this stuff with you guys. And if you go to Blackwoods Press, he has information on the Pacific Crest Trail, the John Muir Trail, the Tahoe Rim Trail, and the Colorado Trail. He also has a blog where you can read about all of his journeys and hiking and everything that he's doing. And another one of the things that I found very, very, very valuable is his gear list. So what I did is I just clicked on the John Muir Trail, and he has maps, atlases, he has a pocket atlas, and I have actually purchased the pocket atlas that I am going to carry with me, or am carrying with me right now on the John Muir Trail. I love it. I will put a picture of it in the show notes. It is extremely detailed, and it shows you the mileage. You've got maps, you've got side trails, you've got all kinds of information. And you guys, I have found nothing better than this John Muir Trail Pocket Atlas by Eric the Black. So I will be using that. And when you purchase the Pocket Atlas, you also get some other things. You get an Eric the Black gear list. You get a sample itinerary of the John Muir Trail, which I found very valuable. We are actually almost following his itinerary to the T. And in the third episode of this series, which I'm going to be going over the food and the resupply, I will share with you our actual itinerary that we are using. But I don't want to give you that right now because who knows what'll change while we're out there. But in the last episode, you will have access to our full Google Doc itinerary, resupply points, and all that good stuff. So you can see for yourself and utilize it when you plan for your John Muir trip yourself. So Eric the Black Pocket Atlas is key. His itinerary that he has out there is key. And also just his website in general for any type of hiking out west. Again, you can find all of his information at blackwoodspress.com. So, of course, the app that I am going to use on my phone that I'm using right now as you guys are listening to this is the JMT app on Atlas Guides, or everybody knows it as Gut Hook. So the map or the Pocket Atlas I'm using is from Eric the Black. And then the app on my phone is going to be the Gut Hook app. It's the JMT app download. So those two pieces of, I don't know if you want to call it gear or what, but I'm going to be having the app and the map, and those are going to be vital for us in our itinerary and hiking as we go along the trail. I also wanted to mention in this area under itinerary maps and apps that the Pacific Crest Trail Association, pcta.org, and then you can go over to a section called Discover the Trail and then click on John Muir Trail. Very, very, very valuable information. I recommend reading that as well. And again, I'm going to emphasize this, you guys, when you go to hike the John Muir Trail, there is just so much you need to read, so much you need to absorb. And I mean, it follows the Leave No Trace principles of plan ahead and be prepared. I cannot emphasize this enough. Plan ahead and be prepared. And part of doing that is absorbing and reading information, contacting people that you know. I'm going to also throw out in this section of itinerary maps and apps the Bearfoot Theory website again. They have an entire section on their website of maps, books, and resources that they recommend for the John Muir Trail. So again, in this section of the podcast, itinerary maps and apps, what I have found vital to me, there's all kinds of information out there. But what I am using and what is working for me is Eric the Black, the Pocket Atlas, and his sample itinerary and sample gear list, the JMT app from Guthook, going to the pcta.org website and reading all of their information about the John Muir Trail in the area of itineraries, maps, and apps and safety. And then going over to barefoottheory.com and looking at their section on maps, books, and resources. And I will also add in this section, there are various Facebook pages for the John Muir Trail, groups you can join. I think there's John Muir Trail 2021, Hiking the John Muir Trail. There are several, so those are options as well, where you can read information about people that have just recently gotten off the trail, snow conditions, weather conditions, all that stuff. And that is something, again, I cannot emphasize enough, to plan ahead and prepare. And that is all I've got right now for itineraries, maps, and apps. And I will be back to chat here real shortly about probably the two most things people talk about for the JMT is which bear canister are you going to carry and your resupply information. So I'll be back here shortly, guys. All right, you guys, I am back to talk about our third and final topic of this podcast episode, which is bear canisters and resupply. And as far as resupply goes, I'm going to just scratch the surface on that a little bit, because in 2 weeks, you're going to hear my episode that I put together that is specifically for our resupply that we are currently using out on the John Muir Trail and what we kind of did. But as far as bear canisters, there's a lot of talk and a lot of, reading to do. Oh, I should use this one. This one weighs this much. And the biggest talk of the town of the bear canister is how much it weighs. And it's adding an additional 2 pounds to my pack. Which one am I going to carry? It's so big. Do I carry it on the inside of my pack? Do I carry it on the outside of my pack? And a lot of that stuff is personal preference. It's going to depend on your resupply points. Do you have to carry 10 days worth of food? Do you have to carry 7 days worth of food? And that will depend on what size bear canister you actually end up getting. But all I'm going to say is, first and foremost, number one, again, this goes back to leave no trace, plan and prepare. On the John Muir Trail, it is mandatory that you carry a bear canister. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no bear hang. There is no any type of other approved bear hanging style. You have to use an approved bear canister by the National Park Service. And the two most popular that I have found bear canisters that everybody's using are the Bear Vault canisters. There's a BV 450. And then there is a BV 500, and you can find that at bearvault.com, bearvault.com. And then the second most popular bear canister style being used, and that is approved by the National Park Service, that is very key. You have to look up which canisters are approved. I cannot emphasize that enough. But the next one is a canister made by a company called Wild Ideas. And you can find them at www.wild-ideas.net. And they have several canisters that you can purchase through them that are different sizes. But, all right, before I go any further, There's two types of canisters that everybody's using, either the Bear Vault or the Wild Ideas canister. And what I have found, no one out there has compared these canisters and done a full in-depth analysis of approved canisters, the volumes, the cost, why you would carry one over the other, which one works better than the other, vice versa, this, that, and all the above, is Andrew Skurka. So if you go to Andrew Skurka, AndrewSkurk.com, he has an entire section about bear canisters and if they're approved, and he has an entire Google spreadsheet of volumes. I mean, you can analyze this spreadsheet for hours. He even does a cost analysis versus weight analysis. So if you are super duper duper ultra light, you may want to pick one over the other. But with that being said, I'm also going to let you guys know which one I chose when I do my gear list video next week. I think Steve and I are going to be carrying different canisters, but both approved. So when it comes to bear canister, my number one, numero uno recommendation is to go to Andrew Skurka's website and look at his bear canister analysis Google spreadsheet that he has out there with weights and volumes and all that stuff I don't understand. And the two most popular bear canisters that people are using on the JMT is either a Bear Vault or a canister made by a company called Wild Ideas. So that's where I'm going to stop with the bear canisters. Again, plan and prepare. When you go out to do the JMT, a lot of preparation. And it can be overwhelming because once going through getting your permit, then you get the permit. Okay. Then you got to decide about your bear canister. AndrewSkurka.com. That's where I recommend starting. Then once you figure all that out in no particular order based on your itinerary, you have to figure out how you're going to resupply. There are several options. I will tell you the three options that we are using. We are going to be resupplying at Red's Meadows, and their website is going to be in today's show notes. We are also resupplying, and everybody pretty much resupplies at this place, whether you're going northbound or southbound, is Muir Trail Ranch. And Muir Trail Ranch is where you send your 5-gallon Lowe's or Home Depot buckets 3 weeks in advance out to the ranch, and then you'll walk into the ranch and get your resupply. And that is MuirTrailRanch.com. And then we are actually, okay, go ahead and make fun of us. I don't really care. We are actually doing a Mule resupply by using Sequoia Kings Pack trains, or they also own Pine Creek Pack Outfitters. We are actually going to be getting a Mule resupply at Charlotte Lake, just at the intersection of the JMT and Kearsarge Pass. So that is going to allow us not to carry 10 days worth of food. And I am going to be going over all of that in my resupply and food logistics episode here coming up in a couple weeks. So again, make sure you read up on your bear canisters, which ones are approved by the National Park Service. And then you can basically choose the Bear Vault or the Wild Ideas canister. Those are the only canisters pretty much that everybody is using when they hike the John Muir Trail. And then you want to make sure and look and evaluate where you want your resupply points to be. And again, ours are going to be Red's Meadows. And by the time you hear this episode, hopefully we will have gotten our resupply at Red's Meadows. Our next resupply will be the Muir Trail Ranch. And then our final resupply will be our Mule resupply just past the intersection of the JMT and Kearsarge Pass. So hopefully you guys have found, or not too overwhelmed by all of this information, but have found it very valuable. Again, plan and prepare is part of Leave No Trace principles, and I cannot emphasize that enough. if you are getting ready to hike the John Muir Trail, in addition to safety and all that wonderful stuff. So hopefully you have enjoyed this episode, everybody, and I will be back here shortly to close out and talk about what's happening next week and the following week and after that, because myself and Mighty Blue are out podcasting on the JMT and hope to bring you those episodes as well. I'll be back. All right, you guys, I am back to close out the episode. Hopefully you found all of this information today valuable when it comes to planning your own John Muir Trail hike and fulfilling that dream on your bucket list. And I wanted to let you guys know that next week I am going to be releasing my JMT final gear list and what I'm actually carrying out there. So that will come out next Saturday, August the 7th. And you will have access in the show notes of that episode to the full Google Doc, which contains everything that I will be carrying out on the JMT. And then the following week, Saturday, August the 14th, you will have access to our actual full itinerary, the date we started, July 28th, all of our resupply information, all the mileage we did every day. You will have access to that. And that episode is also going to contain all of my food prep and resupply information. So again, next Saturday, August the 7th, is going to be my JMT gear list. And then the following Saturday after that is going to be access to our actual JMT itinerary and our resupply information. As you all heard last week, my hike on the JMT is officially dedicated to Kris Sherpa Fowler, and I am asking for donations for the foundation for the duration of this series of episodes. I hope we can raise more funds to help the foundation assist families of missing hikers, provide hiker education, and foundation initiatives. You can find the link to the foundation in the show notes for more information. As always, you can go to hikingradionetwork.com and click on Jester Section Hiker Show to find all of today's show notes, pictures, and links mentioned in this episode. If you find value in what we do here at the network, please consider leaving us a donation or writing us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. As always, everybody, thanks for listening. Be safe out there and happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, If you ever get lost, or if the trail leads you astray, the music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. Round up the troops, and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets in these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Breast milk science. It's a thing, and it's our thing. We're ByHeart. We're an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most superfood on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We make our formula in our own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania, using a small batch manufacturing process that works to preserve the integrity of our ingredients. We ran the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in 25 years, and clinically proved benefits like easier digestion, less gas, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. We were the first infant formula company to earn the Clean Label Project Purity Award. And while we've put a lot into ByHeart, there's a long list of things you won't see on our ingredient list, like no corn syrup, no maltodextrin, no GMO ingredients, no soy, no palm oil. ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.